All right, so today we're diving deep into a place that's been making waves in international relations.
Waves,
The
yeah.
Chagos Archipelago, right in the heart of the Indian Ocean.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about
Sovereignty.
sovereignty, exactly, and strategy, and even some Cold War intrigue,
All in this one little...
all packed into this
Like-
this tiny cluster of island. It's incredible.
It is, yeah.
And for our listeners out there, especially those who are prepping for the UPSC exams,
Yeah.
this is going to be pure gold for you. So definitely pay attention. Take some notes. We're pulling our insights from a recent article in the Indian Express.
A really good one.
Yeah, so definitely add that to your reading list.
It's a must-read.
But don't worry, we'll break it all down for you right here.
Absolutely. No need to go anywhere else.
What I find so fascinating is how a place that seems so remote, like almost nobody's ever heard of it,
Right.
can be so central to understanding
Yeah. How the world works.
the power dynamics of today.
Today's world, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like finding a hidden piece of a puzzle, and then suddenly,
Oh.
oh, now I see.
It all makes sense.
It all makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get too lost in this maze,
Geopolitical maze.
the geopolitical maze, we've got to start with the basics.
Right.
Mauritius,
Mauritius.
the nation that's at the heart of all this,
Absolutely.
it's got a history as rich and diverse as its coral reefs.
Oh, yeah. Think about it. Early explorers setting foot on this pristine island.
Pristine, yeah.
Followed by the Dutch, and then the French, who, well, they kind of transformed the whole landscape.
Really?
Sugarcane plantations.
Wow.
They get this. They brought deer to the island.
Wow.
Yeah, imagine how that changed the ecology, right?
Deer.
Yeah.
Wow. So not just your average
Beach paradise.
beach paradise. No.
Right.
It's more like,
A cultural melting pot
yeah,
with a side of unexpected wildlife.
unexpected wildlife. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, but then,
Then,
of course, British rule comes in.
of course.
And this infamous great experiment.
Right.
Tell me, what was that all about?
Oh, that's pivotal. It's
Yeah.
a pivotal moment in Mauritian history.
Okay.
So after they abolished slavery in 1835,
Okay.
the British administration, they decided, hey, you know what? We're going to replace enslaved labor with indentured servants,
Oh,
mostly from India.
mostly from India.
So this huge influx of people,
Yeah.
it completely reshaped the social and economic fabric of Mauritius.
So this experiment,
More than an experiment.
it wasn't just about labor. It's about
Identity, culture,
identity,
the soul of Mauritius.
the soul of Mauritius.
Yeah.
And this is all essential context for understanding
Why the fight for the Chagos Islands is so deeply felt.
the Chagos Islands, right?
Exactly.
Okay,
This is
all
where
right.
the story takes a turn
Oh, here we go.
that I'm still honestly trying to wrap my head around.
Okay.
In 1965, just as Mauritius is about to get independence,
Right on the verge.
on the verge,
Yeah.
UK decides, you know what? We're going to separate the Chagos Archipelago from Mauritius.
They just
They create this new territory.
took it
They call it the British Indian Ocean Territory.
right before independence.
Yeah.
Something
Something's fishy.
doesn't add up here.
And that's exactly what Mauritius has been arguing all these years.
Really?
They say it's a blatant violation of UN resolution
The one resolution.
that specifically said, don't break up colonial territories before independence.
So they knew
They did it anyway.
they did it anyway.
Okay.
But there's another player we haven't mentioned yet.
Oh, is there?
Diego Garcia.
Okay, Diego Garcia.
Diego Garcia.
Rings a bell.
I've heard that before.
Yeah,
It's the biggest island in the archipelago, right?
it is the largest one
What makes it so crucial?
to this whole dispute.
Yeah.
Well, besides being this stunningly beautiful
Right.
tropical island. Okay. All right. Diego Garcia happens to house
Oh, here we go.
a strategically crucial
no-
joint U.S.-UK military
Or military base.
Yes.
Okay.
And this base has played a significant role, I mean, in numerous conflicts.
Oh, I bet.
From the Gulf War
Right.
to Iraq to
Yeah.
Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And some reports
Some even
that
suggest.
it was used for controversial
Oh, here we go again.
CIA activities.
CIA. Okay.
Mhm.
So we're not just talking about a territorial dispute.
Nope.
Th-
This is
This place,
at the center of
the center of
the
some of the most significant geopolitical events
past few decades.
of the past few decades. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is where the recent developments get even more interesting.
Oh, big,
Buffled up.
okay.
Just last October in 2024,
Very recently.
very recently,
Yeah.
the UK announced they would be ceding sovereignty
Okay.
of the Chagos Archipelago back to Mauritius.
Oh,
On the surface,
sounds like a win. It looks like a major victory for Mauritius, right?
right, but
There's always a but. To
always a but.
international relations. with-
Things are never straightforward.
You said it.
Never black and white.
So, the catch.
What's the catch?
The UK negotiated a 99-year lease for the Diego Garcia base.
What?
as part of the sovereignty transfer.
As part of the deal?
As part of the deal.
So they get the islands back.
They got the islands back.
But the UK...
The U.S. and the U.S.
get to keep their base.
Get to keep their base.
For almost another century.
For almost another century.
I can already imagine the mixed reactions.
Oh, yeah.
This must have...
You're absolutely right. The UK government's trying to spin it.
Of course they are.
As a diplomatic win-win.
Win-win, yeah.
You know, saying, hey, we secured the base's future.
Right.
While also righting a historical wrong.
Sure, sure.
But, you know, there are critics within the UK.
Within the UK.
Who are saying, this is naive.
Okay.
And potentially damaging to British prestige.
To their prestige.
Yeah. Okay.
So, mixed bag there.
What about Mauritius?
Right. How are they feeling?
Are they jumping for me?
Well, they're definitely viewing it as a step towards decolonization.
Okay.
But there's the sense that it's not a complete victory.
Right.
I mean, having a foreign military base on your territory...
for another 99 years.
For another 99 years.
Raises questions.
Raises some serious questions.
About true sovereignty.
About true sovereignty, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a compromise that satisfies no one.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Okay, so we've got this internal UK debate.
Right.
What about...
the international community?
The international community.
How did they react?
To this handover with strings attached.
Right, to this sort of...
half a victory.
Half a victory,
Okay.
yeah. Well, this is where the weight of international law and opinion comes into play.
Oh, okay.
Remember those UN resolutions we talked about?
I do, yeah.
Back in 1965?
Prohibiting the breakup.
Right, that said...
before independence.
don't break up colonial territories before independence.
Right.
Well, those weren't just words on paper.
They weren't just words.
They formed the basis for a landmark ruling by the ICJ.
The ICJ?
The International Court of Justice.
The International Court of Justice. Okay, in
2019.
2019, big year.
Big year.
All right, tell me what they say.
The ICJ ruled in favor of Mauritius,
Oh.
saying that the UK's continued administration of the Chagos Archipelago,
Okay.
unlawful.
Unlawful.
That ruling,
Wow.
it was a game changer.
A game changer, all right?
It gave Mauritius serious legal ammunition in its fight for sovereignty.
So the UK basically got
A legal smack.
a legal smackdown from the ICJ.
Yeah.
Did they just ignore this?
Well, they couldn't completely ignore it,
I guess not.
especially given what happened next.
What happened next?
That same year, 2019,
big year.
the UN General Assembly
Oh, wow.
held a vote on a resolution
A resolution for what?
demanding the UK's withdrawal from the Chagos Archipelago.
Withdraw. Okay.
So the vote was overwhelmingly
Overwhelmingly.
in favor of Mauritius.
In favor of Mauritius. Wow.
It wasn't just symbolic.
This was big.
It showed the world that the UK was increasingly isolated.
Isolated on this issue.
On this issue, yeah.
Okay, so we've got a legal smackdown from the ICJ.
Smackdown.
A global rebuke from the UN.
UN.
And yet the UK still manages to negotiate this 99-year lease.
Yeah.
This is like
high-stakes poker.
high-stakes poker.
And I don't know who's holding the winning hand.
I don't know either.
Good game.
Yeah, and there's another player lurking in the shadows.
Oh, there always is.
We haven't even talked about
China.
China, here we go.
Things are about to get even more interesting.
I bet they are.
Yeah. China's rise as a global power, especially its growing presence in the Indian Ocean region.
Right, because geographically they're right there.
Adds a whole new layer.
Yeah.
To this whole Chagos Archipelago saga.
So how does China factor into all this? Are they just kind of watching this all unfold?
Right.
Or are they like making moves?
Right. Are they just observers?
On this
or are they players?
Geopolitical chessboard.
They are definitely not passive observers.
They're not passive.
They are very much active.
Okay.
They've been steadily increasing their economic and diplomatic ties
Okay.
with countries in the region.
With a lot of countries.
Including Mauritius.
Including Mauritius, of course.
Remember, Mauritius was actually the first African nation to sign a free trade agreement with Beijing.
Oh, that's right.
So those economic connections
Are already there.
are already there.
But what about military or strategic interests?
Right.
Are there concerns about China
Establishing a presence on the island.
establishing a presence? Yeah.
That is a question that is keeping a lot of analysts up at night.
Really?
Especially in India.
I bet.
Some experts worry that China might try to leverage its economic influence
Right.
to gain access to the Chagos Archipelago,
Okay.
perhaps even develop a commercial port
Oh, wow.
that could rival India's growing naval presence
That would shake things up.
in the region.
So how does India view all of this?
Yeah,
They must be watching this very closely.
they are watching very, very closely.
Yeah.
Interestingly, India has officially welcomed the UK's decision
To cede sovereignty.
to cede sovereignty to Mauritius.
Okay, that seems kind of counterintuitive,
Right.
given the potential for increased Chinese influence.
You would think.
So why would they be okay with that?
Right.
If it could potentially benefit China?
Well, their stance is more nuanced than that.
Okay,
They see a stable and friendly Mauritius as being in their best interest.
okay,
A strong, independent Mauritius,
right.
less likely to be swayed by Chinese pressure.
Okay, so they're playing the long game here,
Yeah, it's a long...
betting on a strong Mauritius
Right.
as a counterbalance to
Exactly.
China's growing influence.
It's a delicate balancing act.
It is.
India's trying to play its cards carefully.
But this whole situation raises some parallels
Yeah.
with another handover of sovereignty that didn't quite go as planned.
Right.
Hong Kong,
Hong
the one country, two systems,
Exactly.
like kind of unraveled.
That unraveled when Hong Kong was returned to China in 1997.
Yeah,
It was under the
they
agreement,
retain autonomy
a high degree of autonomy.
and freedoms.
But 50 years.
And we've seen how those promises have been
eroded.
at Beijing in recent years.
So the concern is that even though Mauritius will technically have sovereignty,
Right.
China could still find ways
To exert its
to
influence.
exert its influence
Yeah.
and potentially undermine Mauritian autonomy.
Potentially.
Just like in Hong Kong.
That's the fear.
Yeah.
And it's not entirely unfounded, given China's track record.
Their track record
Mm-hmm.
of asserting its control over territories that it sees
That's
as
hugely important.
strategically important.
This is feeling like a real-life geopolitical thriller,
It is.
and poor Mauritius,
Right in the middle.
caught in the middle of it all.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if this sovereignty transfer is truly a victory for them,
Right. Is this really a win
or just another chapter in this
long and complicated story?
of being caught between global powers.
Exactly. Decolonization is rarely a clean break.
It's not a clean break, no.
Often comes with lingering complications.
Yeah.
New challenges.
Amplified by the strategic
The
importance
Indian Ocean.
and the intense rivalry between China, India, and the U.S.
Absolutely.
Wow, okay.
That's a lot.
And all of this is happening against the backdrop of the UK's insistence
Yeah.
that this Chagos decision is a unique case.
Unique case, yeah.
And it won't set a precedent
Right.
for other overseas territories.
Like the Falkland Islands.
Like the Falkland Islands
Gibraltar.
or Gibraltar.
Right.
Do you buy that argument?
It's a tough sell.
It's a tough sell, yeah.
UK is adamant.
They're adamant.
Those other territories are completely
Future
different.
innovations, yeah.
With their own unique historical and legal contexts.
Okay.
They're claiming that the Chagos decision is a one-off.
A one-off.
Driven by specific circumstances.
Okay. But wouldn't this situation logically raise questions about the future of those other territories?
It's hard not to.
Yeah, if the UK is willing to cede sovereignty in one case,
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't that embolden those
Those seeking independence.
seeking independence
Yeah, change in status.
for other territories?
Right.
How can they claim it's not a precedent
It's a fair point.
when it's literally setting a precedent?
Actions speak louder than words.
In international relations, that's for sure.
The UK might be trying to draw a line in the sand,
Okay,
but the ripple effects of this Chagos decision
yeah,
likely to be felt
far and wide.
far and wide.
Yeah, this whole story.
It has so many layers.
So many layers.
It's fascinating and at times troubling.
It is troubling.
This blend of history,
History law,
international relations,
international relations,
even a touch of Cold War intrigue.
a touch of Cold War intrigue, yeah.
But we haven't fully explored one crucial aspect,
What's that?
and it's the one that weighs heaviest on my mind.
Tell me.
The Chagossians.
Oh, the Chagos, right?
We can't talk about the Chagos Archipelago without acknowledging the human cost
The human cost.
of this geopolitical chess game.
Right at the heart of it all are the Chagosians.
At the heart.
The people who were forcibly removed from their homes in the 1960s
Forcibly removed
to make way for that military base.
on Diego Garcia.
It's heartbreaking to think that people were uprooted from their homes,
Uprooted.
their culture,
Their culture.
their way of life,
Their way of life.
all for the sake of strategic interests.
It's a stark reminder that behind these grand geopolitical maneuvers,
Yeah,
there are real people whose lives are profoundly impacted.
profoundly, yeah.
The Chagossians' fight for justice and the right to return to their homeland
Yeah.
is an ongoing struggle.
It's an ongoing struggle.
And then now with this sovereignty transfer,
Yeah.
their future hangs in the balance.
What does this handover of sovereignty actually mean for them?
Right.
Does it bring them any closer to achieving their dream of returning home?
Or does it just complicate their already difficult situation?
Yeah, these are the questions
These are the questions
that need to be at the forefront.
They've been the forgotten victims
The forgotten victims. Yeah.
of this dispute for far too long.
For too long, we can't let their voices
Be drowned out.
be drowned out by the geopolitical noise.
Their story needs to be heard.
It needs to be heard.
And their rights need to be recognized.
Absolutely.
Which isn't just about territory or strategy.
This is about people.
It's about people, their lives, their heritage.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we could talk about this for hours.
We could.
We've only just scratched the surface.
We have.
But for the sake of our listeners,
Uh,
especially those UPSC aspirants,
yes, taking notes.
and we're probably taking furious notes,
Mm-hmm.
let's try to distill some key takeaways
Good idea.
from our deep dive
So, listeners,
into the Chagos Archipelago.
if you're prepping for those UPSC exams,
Yeah,
this story is a gold mine of insights.
it is.
First and foremost, it demonstrates the lasting legacy of colonialism
Right.
and the complex challenges
Of decolonization.
of decolonization.
Not easy.
It shows how historical injustices
Yeah.
can continue to shape international relations even decades later.
It's amazing how these things just
They keep coming back.
keep coming back, and it highlights the strategic importance of the Indian Ocean region,
Absolutely.
which is increasingly becoming
Focal point
for competition between major powers.
China, India, U.S.
Yes, right.
This isn't just a regional issue.
No.
This has global implications.
Global implications.
Okay.
And on a more theoretical level,
Okay. This case study shows how international law and institutions like
like the ICJ
the ICJ
and the UN General Assembly
UN General Assembly.
can play a role in shaping these disputes.
Right. Even if they can't force a resolution,
They can shift the balance of power,
can shift the balance, create pressure,
create pressure for change.
and perhaps most importantly,
this
story underscores
the human cost
of these geopolitical games.
It always comes back to the people,
It does.
doesn't it?
The plight of the Chagosians
The plight of the Chagosians.
serves as a stark reminder
The stark reminder.
that behind every headline,
Every treaty.
every strategic maneuver,
There are real people
whose lives are affected.
whose lives are affected.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Before we move on to our final thoughts
Yeah.
and wrap up this deep dive, quick reminder to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below.
We love hearing from you.
We love hearing from our listeners.
Especially our dedicated UPSC aspirants.
Yes.
You guys are awesome.
Your engagement helps us reach more curious minds.
Keeps these important conversations going.
All right. As we start to surface from this deep dive
Resurface, yeah.
into the Chagos Archipelago,
Come up for
I'm left with a whole ocean
a whole ocean
of questions
Yeah.
swirling in my mind.
It really makes you think about the decisions made
Decades ago.
yeah, and how they're playing out.
In a completely different world.
Completely different world. What seemed like a strategic move
Back in the Cold War.
back in the Cold War
is now playing out in a very different way.
What makes this story so compelling?
It's about the future.
It's not just history, it's about the future.
Yeah.
So as we look ahead, what should we be watching for
What are some of the key things to watch out for
in this unfolding drama?
in this unfolding drama? Yeah.
Well, if we try to connect these historical dots to
Yeah.
the bigger picture,
to the bigger picture,
there are several
fascinating threads.
fascinating threads to keep an eye on.
Okay.
Firstly, the relationship between Mauritius and the UK.
Right. Yeah.
It's entering a new phase.
It's a new chapter
Will this handover
of sovereignty.
lead to a more equitable partnership,
Okay.
or will it be overshadowed that 99-year lease?
By that 99-year lease.
Diego Garcia.
It's like a giant asterisk
The big asterisk.
next to the whole sovereignty
It's
transfer.
this constant reminder
A constant reminder. Yeah.
the UK's
Continued strategic interest
strategic
in the region.
Exactly.
And secondly,
you can't ignore.
the elephant in the room,
Or should I say the dragon in the Indian Ocean?
China.
How will China's presence evolve?
Right.
Will they see this as an opportunity
There's an opportunity, yeah,
to increase their influence?
in the Chagos Archipelago.
Exactly.
It's like watching a game of Risk
It is.
unfold in real time.
Yeah.
Every move by one player
It changes the whole game.
changes the whole game, the balance of power.
Exactly.
And then there's the most important question of all,
The big one.
what will
To
happen
the Chagosians.
to the Chagosians?
Will they finally get the justice they deserve?
They've been fighting for so long
Will they be able to return to their homeland?
to rebuild their lives.
That's the human side of this story.
That's the human side.
We cannot forget that.
We can't forget that.
Amidst all the
Geopolitical maneuvering.
geopolitical maneuvering, yeah.
It's easy to get lost.
It's easy to forget.
In all of that
Their story
is a powerful reminder
decisions made on the world stage.
have real human consequences.
They do. Absolutely.
I have a feeling we'll be revisiting this story
I think we
in
will.
future episodes.
It's far from over.
Yeah, as events continue to unfold.
It's one to keep on your radar.
It's one to keep on your radar, okay?
For sure.
Well, dear listeners,
We've reached the end
we've reached the end
of our deep dive
of a deep dive
into the Chagos Archipelago.
into the Chagos Archipelago.
Hopefully.
I hope this journey has been as thought-provoking for you
As it has been for us.
as it has been for us.
We've explored
History,
international
relations,
international relations,
and above all, the human stories
the human stories.
that lie at the heart of this complex issue.
For our UPSC aspirants out there,
Yes.
this is a prime
A
example
prime example.
of how seemingly separate
It's
subjects,
disparate subjects.
history, geography,
International law.
are all interconnected.
Pay attention to those
'Cause
connections.
those connections are key.
They're the key to understand
The world around us.
the world around us.
Okay, we'd like to give a special shout out
To the Indian
to
Express.
the Indian Express
For their insightful
Luckily, it's an
report
insightful report
on this topic.
on this topic.
Definitely check out their
If you want to learn more
Absolutely.
about the Chagos Archipelago,
And before we sign off,
we want to leave you with one final thought
one final thought.
to ponder.
Okay.
As Mauritius takes control of its newly reclaimed territory,
Right.
and as global powers continue to jostle for influence,
In the Indian Ocean.
how will the future of this region unfold?
Big questions.
And who will ultimately benefit
Who will benefit?
from this shifting balance of power?
It's a question
It's a question that deserves
our attention.
Our
And
attention.
continued exploration.
continued exploration.
So keep those minds churning. Stay curious.
And don't forget to subscribe, and leave a comment below.
We love hearing your thoughts and insights.
Until next time.
Happy deep diving.
Happy deep diving, everyone.